Cap's got his shield, Iron Man's got his suit, but few objects throughout comic book history have had as big an impact as the mighty hammer, Mjolnir. Completely incapable of even being lifted unless it's by someone deemed to be worthy, this Asgardian weapon is most commonly used by Thor, but occasionally has been used by other heroes throughout the Marvel Multiverse. Hey everybody, I'm Josh Busker, and today we're going to be counting down the top 10 superheroes who lifted Thor's hammer Mjolnir. Let's get right into it, shall we? Coming in at number 10, we've got Thor's dad himself, Odin the Allfather. Now, given that Odin is the one that put the worthiness requirement spell on Mjolnir in the first place, it kinda makes sense that he'd give himself a loophole and allow himself to be considered worthy, and is shown to be able to wield the hammer multiple times over the years. However, the most notable might be the incident that caused him to add the worthiness charm to the weapon in the first place, when Odin had first created the weapon, but found its power too great for him to control safely. Outraged and spiteful, Odin basically roared, "If I can't do it, no one can," and locked Mjolnir away until it eventually became Thor's. Talk about an overly dramatic origin story, am I right? At number 9, we've got the unbeatable Squirrel Girl, a character that honestly doesn't really need Mjolnir, but heck, I guess if she can lift it as well, then she's on the list. Squirrel Girl is a fan favorite character who exists on the sidelines of the Marvel Universe, rarely taking part in major events, but yet has somehow managed to easily defeat practically every major supervillain that's encountered her. Given how powerful she is, the only opponent who's really ever given her trouble is an evil clone of herself. When the Squirrel Girl clone had already taken out the Avengers and threatened to take over the world with a squirrel army, the original Squirrel Girl picked up the fallen Thor's hammer and used it to defeat her evil self. Coming in at number 8, we've got a worthy X-Men in the form of Rogue. Now, since comics history can be a bit convoluted, this storyline actually happened when Rogue and her power-absorbing skills were allied with the Brotherhood of Mutants, and she was a much more villainous character than she is these days. In an alternate universe what-if storyline where Rogue went even more to the dark side, Rogue was able to defeat the other Avengers by touching Thor's skin and absorbing all of his powers, including the ability to wield Mjolnir. Although eventually she would decide to use her new powers for good and save Asgard from another supervillain's schemes, it was still quite shocking to see that Rogue's mutant ability can allow her to literally wield the power of the gods. At number 7, we've got to go with the god of mischief himself, Loki. Now, there are plenty of alternate universe storylines where Loki is Odin's preferred son to Thor, or in which Loki is gifted the ability to wield Mjolnir, but one of the most interesting versions of this story actually occurred in the mainstream Marvel Universe. In the Axis event, during which many heroes and villains had their morals and alignments completely inverted, a newly heroic and selfless Loki had to face off against a villainous and power-hungry Thor, literally fighting on the moon against his own brother. In this battle, Loki now found himself worthy of wielding Mjolnir, even if he no longer properly felt like himself. Once everyone's alignments had returned to normal, Loki was hopeful he could still lift the hammer, but unfortunately, he's not quite earned that honor yet. Coming in at number 6, we've got the one who's potentially held the weapon the most after Thor, because she's a Thor as well. That's right, it's Jane Foster. During a time when the original Thor Odinson was no longer considered worthy of wielding Mjolnir, the hammer was abandoned on Earth's moon and sent out a telepathic signal to Jane Foster, who is currently battling breast cancer while representing Earth at the Council of Worlds on Asgard. Jane found she was capable of wielding the hammer and hid her identity as she became a new Thor to protect the 9 realms, even while still battling cancer every time she reverted to her human form. Talk about badass. At number 5, we've got a Spider-Man, but not the one you might be expecting. It's Spider-Man 2099 Miguel O'Hara. In the far future, at the end of the Marvel 2099 universe, after the planet Earth's destruction, the former Spider-Man of the future is gifted Mjolnir by a resurrected Steve Rogers and is shocked to discover he's capable of lifting the hammer. Instead of becoming a new version of Thor, Miguel uses the immortality that Mjolnir grants him to become a wise leader for humanity, bringing them back from the capitalistic brink that destroyed their planet in the first place. And by finding a creative way to save the world instead of the usual punching things back to normal, That's pretty freaking worthy, Miguel. Nice going. Coming in at number 4, no Mjolnir-themed list is complete without the beloved Beta Ray Bill. A Corbinite from the Burning Galaxy, Bill originally met Thor when his ship was picked up entering the Milky Way galaxy by S.H.I.E.L.D., and Nick Fury asked Thor to check it out. After being briefly knocked unconscious and separated from Mjolnir, Thor was astonished to wake up to Bill wielding Mjolnir and all of his powers, a worthy protector of his people, simply trying to defend some refugees. While eventually Thor would reclaim the original Mjolnir, Beta Ray Bill had such a big impact on the Marvel Universe and had utilized the hammer so well that he was gifted a replacement weapon known as Stormbreaker, made from the very same metal as Mjolnir in honor of his service. Good job, Beta Ray Bill. I really hope you show up in the MCU someday. At number 3, we've got a little bit of a plot twist with Gwenpool. One of the weirder characters from the entire Marvel Universe, which is honestly saying a lot. Gwendolyn Poole is originally from an alternate reality that just might be our own, before somehow getting sucked into the main Marvel Universe through a comic book and all of the fourth wall breaking knowledge that allows. Gwenpool's adventures are far more comedic and outlandish than most tales involving Mjolnir, so it makes sense that her utilization of the weapon might be a bit eccentric. Whenever Gwen used her fourth wall breaking powers to gain allies and weaponry from the Marvel's universe's past, she was able to break Mjolnir's worthiness rule by literally wearing the severed arm of Thor as a glove to wield the hammer with. I don't think that's exactly what Odin had in mind when he came up with the rules, but I guess it worked? Coming in at number 2, it's the Star-Spangled Man himself, Captain America. I remember waiting the entirety of the MCU to see Steve Rogers wield Mjolnir, and when it finally came, fans around the world were not disappointed to see one of the most iconic comic book moments ever play out on screen, and for good reason. When the Avengers are being attacked by the dark Egyptian god of death, Set, Captain America seems overwhelmed with the rest of the Avengers by the sheer amount of minions at Set's disposal. However, Steve's random attempt to grab at Mjolnir surprises him with the knowledge that he is worthy, and goes to show just how powerful Captain America can become. And in our top spot, we've got a surprise from an entirely different universe. It's Wonder Woman. During a massive crossover event called, fittingly enough, DC vs. Marvel, Mjolnir is blasted out of Thor's hands when he wins a battle against the hero Shazam. The weapon is then picked up by Wonder Woman after she reads the description, enhancing her already incredible powers and giving them a lightning-based kick. In fact, Diana was so honorable and worthy of Mjolnir that she immediately gave the weapon up, stating that it wasn't fair for her to continue fighting with such an increased power boost. And while the actual Thor might not be quite as noble when it comes to battles, him and Wonder Woman shared a smile when she handed the hammer back. I guess game recognizes game, God recognizes God. Les Chroniques de Rick says, "You forgot to mention Miguel's biggest flex, even if you did mention Miguel, I give you that. He can lift Mjolnir." Well, thank you very much for that comment. That actually inspired him being put on this Mjolnir theme list, so thank you very much for that, because otherwise I actually might have forgotten that. So yes, that number on this list, that's all thanks to you. T-Rex Advent asks, which one of these alternate versions of Captain America do you think should appear in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? I mean, honestly, I think any of them could appear, because, you know, it's a multiverse of madness, there's multiple of them, but if I had to pick exactly one, I'd have to go with Hydra Cap. I just would love to see Chris Evans come back and just go full evil. Guess I can't say what movie I've seen him in recently where he was full evil, because that's a spoiler, but Chris Evans does full evil really well. And Michael Ross says, "I like Josh Busker, he's awesome." Thank you very much, Michael Ross. I really hope you are not my mother that has just signed up for YouTube and made a different account. That would be awkward, so I hope that's not you, Mom, but if so, hi. That's all the time for heavy hammer lifting that we have today, but if you enjoyed this video, why not hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and be sure to let us know what other superheroes you think would be capable of picking up Mjolnir. As always, I've been Josh Busker, and this has been Top 10 Nerd. See you around.